Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes, with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
This is the spot, a marking signifying the starting point of the dam.
40. No compensation has been given to any community member, and no place has been earmarked for their relocation.
Since why they go, they never come back.
And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed. But for many years, the story has remained the same. This is the site of the proposed hydroelectric power station in Mambila. But the irony is, no construction has even commenced yet.
It's a beautiful morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you from the nation's capital. And of course, we are live on the show this morning. My name is Ayuba Ilya.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are just joining us for the first time, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. And we do this every Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Yes, TGIM. Did I hear you say, thank God it's Monday? I'm not sure if there's anything like that, though.
No, thank God it's Friday. We usually hear that.
What we hear is thank God it's Friday, TGIF. But here am I saying, thank God it's Monday. Not many people love Mondays, actually, because of the kind of stress that people are about to go through, because you have this backlog from the weekend and then you have to clear everything on a Monday. So it's quite hectic for most people. Well, if today, like we said, you're just joining us for the first time, you want to make a date with us every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. That way we can keep you updated on all the recent happenings in our country and, of course, around the world. Sunday, the 24th of October, was commemorated as World Development Information Day. Very interesting, isn't it? And that's why you should continue to watch the show, because we are all about bringing you information geared towards national growth and development. That way you cannot go wrong. Now, the day is all about dissemination of information and mobilization of public opinion, particularly among young people, for greater awareness of the problems of development, thus promoting efforts in the sphere of international cooperation for development. Now, it is often said that knowing your problem is the first step towards fixing it, isn't it? So it's very important that we always, have these perspectives and analyze issues that concerns us as Nigerians. Today on the show, we'll be talking about CBN's e-Naira policy, and business and economic expert Steve Nwachukwu will be joining us to discuss this on the show. And we also have Zainab Okino, Chairman, Editorial Board, leadership newspaper, in the studio to review the dailies on Daybreak today. Well, I would say once again, welcome on the show. Let's take a look at the world history on 25th of October. Well, then let's take this quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue the show. Please stay with us. African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction. Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004. From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, they laid off 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention. Well, there you have it. Today in history, a very, very important days there to, remember in world history. We have the International Dwarfism Awareness Day, International Artist Day, World Pasta Day, World Opera Day, and so many others. Now, one that stood out for me is the history that was made back in 2009 on the 25th of October when the Movement for the Emancipation of Niger Delta group, decided to cease fire and got into talks with the federal government. That was quite a remarkable day. And since then, we haven't heard any kind of conflict in that region, and that's quite commendable. Hopefully we have other groups, armed groups in the country, kind of come to, surrender and lay down their arms and know that peace is the way and that it takes all of us to build peace, both government and the people, isn't it?
Right. Well, I think it's about time to move on to the next segment of the show, which is the review of the dailies on Daybreak. But before that, let's take a quick break. When we come back, the dailies review continues. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
All right, thank you so much for sticking with us. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. We have in the studio Zainab Suleiman Okino. She's the Chairman, Editorial Board, Blueprint Newspaper. Thanks for coming to the show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Right at the top on page 4, you'd find after Daily Trust story, Kano blind teacher gets job and a house. Wow, that's quite interesting.
Very interesting.
And then on page 48, you'd see amidst legal issues, PDP to proceed with convention. And on page 5, where you'd see boldly written, the big headline, despite SIM and NIN linkage, kidnappers, bandits still demand ransom via phones. And the writer is saying why it isn't working. That's according to experts. Another writer is saying policy effective, says Pantami. And on page 52, you'd find Buhari leads Nigeria's delegation to Saudi Arabia Investment Summit. And on page 6, you'd find 780 million fraud. EFCC grills ex-Senate President Anyim. And right on page 54, you'd find gunmen attack Ogun Church, abduct 3 worshippers. And then you see a pictorial there where pupils of police children's school cotton curfew and parade during the Ohikwe Igbira Convention in Kogi State over the weekend. And you'd find on page 24, 33 states may not pay salaries as 172 billion naira deduction grounds revenue disbursement. So these are some of the stories you'd find on the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right. Taking a look at the Guardian newspaper this morning, also we have some of the stories going this way. The lead story says, banks in defining moment as e-Naira kicks off today. You also see the writer there saying, in unease over how digital currency will affect financial intermediation. That's according to the Guardian there. Now, Nigeria joins Bahamas, Sweden, Cambodia, South Korea as pioneers of CBDC. It's elitist, but will enhance efficiency of payment system. We are ready for rollout, CBN insists. You would also find the lead story there showing you the president and the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria. Beside that, Rivers not at war with federal government over VAT, Wike clarifies. Police foil attack on Wana division, kill suspect. You would see also EFCC quizzes former Senate President Anyim over alleged diversion of funds. ICC seeks probe of pupils abduction in Nigeria. Below that, declare bandits terrorists, 36 speakers tell Buhari. These are some of the lead stories on The Guardian this morning. We'll be having much more discussions on the issue of the e-Naira to be launched today. I mean, that's our focus on the program today on the show.
Okay, let's move on to the next newspaper this morning, talking about the Punch newspaper. The big headline there on page 35, you'd see SIM NIN linkage. Subscribers push for 2-month extension. Deadline expires on Sunday. And a writer is saying subscriber group says registration centers extremely crowded. And another rider is saying fresh extension likely after NIMC, NCC review. That's according to telecoms firms. And you'd also find on page 2, ASU cautions federal government on 30 billion revitalization fund October 31st deadline nears. And a rider is saying Union NEC meets early next month to decide next line of action. You'd also find on the Punch newspaper, Otedola shareholders, analysts project spike in FBN share price. And you'd find on page 2, INEC needs 17,618 workers to conduct APC PDP primaries. You'd also find World Bank blacklists 18 Nigerian firms, individuals for corruption. That's according to a report. And you'd also find aviation agencies plan 436.6 billion revenue, budget 55.86 billion for security. So these are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper.
All right, on the Nation newspaper today, the first story there says CBN, SEC, NGX begin scrutiny of Otedola FBN Holdings shares acquisition. You'd see also speakers seek more action against bandits. 392 Oyo inmates still at large, 13 arrested in Osun. Recall how over the weekend we had that story of the jailbreak in Oyo State. Right. Quite sad. I would say that this has happened for the umpteenth time.
Right.
And it doesn't look like we are learning from those experiences. The lead story there says tension heightens in PDP over uncertain convention. Governors consult over Secondus court case. Makinde, October 30th date sacrosanct. 780 million naira cash. EFCC grills ex-SGF. Then, of course, you would see also CBN raises healthcare fund to 200 billion naira. These are some of the lead stories on the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the stories on the Daily Sun this morning. You'd find on page 8 of the Daily Sun, editors to federal government, insecurity hampering development. You'd also find rescuing Nigeria from abandoned road projects. That's an editorial done by the Daily Sun. And the lead story there says federal government talks tough over Oyo State jailbreak. And a writer is saying vows to recapture fleeing inmates, dead or alive. You'd also see another writer saying Makinde orders installation of CCTV at all custodial facilities in the state. You'd also find Aregbesola Alafin visit Obolongo Custodial Center. And on page 27 of the Daily Sun, Nnamdi Kanu, we are taking steps to secure consular access, UK. And on page 37, VAT, Rivers not fighting federal government, wants constitution respected, says Wike. These are some of the stories you'd find on the Daily Sun.
All right, quite a number of stories on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And some of the stories, the first one at the very top, ICC prosecutor seeks investigation into abduction of Nigerian school children. You would find Nnamdi Kanu Malami has crossed the line, the red line, Ohaneze declares. You would find that on page 8 of the Tribune newspaper. Osun APC, appeal committee upholds Famodun-led EXCO. You would see, says decision taken in absence of any petition or appeal. Below the nameplate, you would see PDP raises alarm over plot to scuttle convention. The rider, power struggle rages in zonal state chapters. Obi, Metu, other Anambra stakeholders clash over NWC post. That's on page 24. You'd find also one suspected IPOB member killed as gunmen attack Ebonyi police station. Kidnappers abduct 3 during vigil in Abeokuta. Abductions of 2 Ondo girls contact mother. That's on page 28. Third fund, not for bursary payment, ASU tells FG. You would find below the pictorial on the Nigerian Tribune, prison attackers, more masks, black dresses were about 50, says Hunters. Those are the eyewitnesses to the jailbreak, I believe. Makinde Arogbeshola, a laughing visit center. Consistent attacks on prisons, coordinated, that's according to the federal government. Wakili Shorigbo, not in Oyo prison. DCG. Makinde directs CCTV installations. Oshun, please rearrest 13 fleeing inmates. It's quite sad, really, that we now acknowledge that it's coordinated. These attacks are coordinated. So, aren't we coordinated enough to counter this attack before they happen? Because, I mean, this is not the first. This is not the second. It is becoming more like, you know, a daily experience now. Right. Let's get the thought of our reviewer. Like we told you, we have Zainab Suleiman Okino, chairman, editorial board of the Blueprint newspaper in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning, once again.
It's good to have you in the studio.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine.
Yes. Now, let's, begin with the very last story we took about the issue of the jailbreak that we've seen over and over the weekend. That was the report that we saw. That was quite shocking, isn't it?
Well, I won't say it's shocking, because you have mentioned that this is not the first, this is not the second time. It's been on and on and on for a long time, especially the attack that we had during the NSAS protests. So I thought our security agencies should have taken the cue from that loose ends that opened almost how many prisons to attacks. So, but then you cannot build something on nothing. Over the years, most of these prisons have been open to attack because of the lax security situations in some of those prisons. So, and everything again, they will tell you it boils down to money to reconstruct. So we need to start from the beginning, I should say, so that we can fortify these prisons such that it will not be open to attack. But I think in most cases there are always insider information about these prisons that are open to attack or that have been attacked. So that's where we also need intelligence to be able to counter the plans of the evildoers.
But of concern to me is the fact that sometimes these attacks happen even almost unresisted, because we didn't see anything saying that, there was, the pushback from security agencies. So one wonders, is it the problem of lack of, enough security officials guarding the prisons, or lack of equipment, or the lack of will to do so?
Maybe everything put together. But it starts from intelligence gathering. If you don't have enough intelligence, every other thing will fail. Then secondly, most of these attackers, they are equipped with sophisticated weapons. In most cases, bigger, better than what our security men are holding at the gates. So, and the security men at the gates, they know from the voice of, from the noise of whenever attackers come in, they know. When they hear the sound, they know. So, and they know that what they are holding cannot match theirs. And then there's corruption along the line. Some people must have been given some money to keep quiet. So it's we need to go the whole hog to be able to nip this problem in the bud, because, and in most cases, people are killed. Innocent people are killed. And then you allow prisoners, some of them hardened prisoners, some of them condemned prisoners. Because as you know very well, the governors have not been signing death sentences. Almost all the governors. None of them is ready to commit to sign for some of these condemned criminals to be killed. So you now allow them come back to the society. And that's why our security situation is worsening. There's no improvement because when these hardened criminals come back to the system, they cause more havoc than they did the first time that took them to prison. So we have a long way to go.
Okay.
It's sad.
Now, many would agree that most of our prisons are quite old, many built in the 80s and all of that.
80s,
well,
60s.
So 60s, 80s.
Even 50s.
50s.
Yes.
Well, some would say maybe the government is not prioritizing, getting to rebuild some of these prisons or put some architectures in place that would at least safeguard penetration. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree with you. Most of them are old. But you see, no matter how old a structure is, it can be modernized.
Right.
How much of that are our security men doing, or those in charge of those prisons, the CJs? How much of that are they doing? But again, how much fund is released to them? You never can tell. So until we know all these details, we cannot blame the whole problem on one person. So yes, the prisons are quite old, but that's not an issue if we know what we are doing. All we need to do is to fortify them, modernize them, equip them. Equipment is what matters. It's not how big a structure is. But if they have the equipment, if they have the arms, the right ones, RPGs, all those ones, that can beat what the attackers are holding. But the question you should even ask yourself is, how did these attackers come through the town, the local area, and nobody noticed? And that's why I mentioned intelligence that first time. And they cannot tell me they do not know. Sometimes they know, but they are not equipped enough. Sometimes they get the intelligence, but they are not equipped enough to counter what the attackers are coming with.
Right.
Now, we also have another story, about the recapturing of some of those people, that 392 inmates are still at large and the 13, are arrested in Osun State. Is that even, enough? And also we are also hearing that there has been an instruction, or I would say an approval for the installation of CCTV cameras.
After the deed is done.
Are we not, crying foul after all the milk has been spilled already on the floor,
You're right. The deed has been done. This over 300, if two attackers or two gunmen entered this place, God forbid, if one enters here, all of us here will be in trouble. And you're talking about over 300 people who probably will get some arms here and there and begin to cause more havoc. It's very unfortunate, but we're not getting it right. If this is when we'll talk of installing CCTVs. So if those CCTVs had been there, perhaps the attack would not have been this serious. So I think what we are doing is medicine after death. And then we are used to this. I think there's no, look, we've got to a stage where if you are sure you'll be exposed. If you don't plan, you'll be exposed. In the past, you could do this and get away with it. Not anymore. So once something happens like this, all your weaknesses will show. So talking about CCTV at this stage is,
And let's recall also that this happened just, I think, about a day after the rail line from Kaduna to Abuja was, attacked also by, believed to be attacked by bandits, and all of that. It also brings the question of whether or not our security officials are standing up to the occasion, or whether government itself is standing up to the recent spike in cases of insecurity across the country, whether it's really indeed on top of the situation like it will always say.
I won't say government is not doing anything. But how much? Is it enough? I think that's the question. Of course, government is doing something. Otherwise, none of us can sleep with our two eyes closed. The whole thing is bad. It's bad. It's bad, very bad. The situation is scary. They are doing something, but is it enough? Of course, it's not enough. It is enough. The train that was attacked was really, I didn't believe it. When I saw it, I thought it was fake news. Because many of us have been on that train, and I've had cause to interact with one of the security men, and he gave me a lowdown of what they do. And from what he told me, I thought it was not going to be possible for the train to be attacked anytime. But it did happen. It happened, and then all of us were taken aback, and everybody is still in shock how it happened. I think the driver of that train deserves an award. I don't know how he was able to maneuver to the extent that no life was lost. Whoever that driver was, he deserves an award. I think he's properly trained.
Well, I think on the other hand, people were surprised because the NRC issued a statement saying it was not bandits, that it was vandals. And so many would say, was that just to, calm people down?
No, I tell you, considering what I've heard about the train and those security men, what they told me, no vandals can try the train. It's magnetic. You can't try it. You have to be sophisticated in your own plan too before you can attack a train. But it looks like the bomb had detonated before the train got there or something like that. However they did it, some expertise must have come into it. Some proficiency must have come into it. And precision must have come into it. That's not the work of vandals. Vandals will just pick small things here and there. No vandal can go do what that crater that was created after I don't know whether you saw it, and of course the gunshots. Can't be that's the work of, I won't say it's a pro, but close to it.
All right then, let's.
I mean, we should all be worried because
it's worrisome.
It's worrisome because, I mean, for anybody in Kaduna here, in Abuja here, Kaduna is like maybe second home for many of us. For me, I have children there. I lived there before. Most people that work in Abuja live in Kaduna. So it's really
all right. Now,
unfortunate.
Another story. The Punch is leading with the issue of the SIM-NIN linkage, talking about subscribers push for 2 months extension. Deadline expires on Sunday. Subscriber group says registration centers extremely crowded. Fresh extension likely after NIMC NCC review. That's according to telecom firms. It looks like from 2 months to 6 months now we are, about a year and more, and then it looks like we are not close to the end because going by, what this subscriber group is saying, that the centers are crowded. It doesn't look like we've deployed sufficient equipment to do this linkage of the SIM and the NIN thing.
You've already said it. And like I said earlier, we do not plan well. When when it was first announced within 3 months, and everybody was scampering and were trying to register, then it was extended, and this should be, and then it's ending in this October, yes. And now we're asking for extension. Of course, there are the equipment are surely not enough. Either NIMC went back to sleep, or they don't have enough equipment, or people are also not serious. In most cases, our people are not committed to anything. So perhaps many also didn't bother. They thought it was one of those policy statements that government will forget, as they are always doing. So perhaps they are also waiting for the deadline before they quickly remember that, I have not done my SIM-NIN linkage. So there are so many factors. But I still believe that if the government is serious, they should just close it once and for all.
Right. The Daily Trust newspaper is also leading with this story. But the angle to that story is what's really captivating. It says, despite seeming linkage, kidnappers, bandits still demand ransom for their funds. What are your thoughts about that? Is it that the policy is not working or there's something wrong?
It's just a pity that all these are happening. And everything we'll be discussing is about security. We're not safe, unfortunately. When the policy came into effect, especially in some parts of, not just the SIM linkage, when the ban on phone calls in some parts of Zamfara and Kaduna State.
Shutdown of the network.
Yes, shutdown of some network. I think there was a lull in kidnapping. It seemed that it did work initially. Then suddenly, we've gone back to where we're coming from. I think something is wrong somewhere. And I don't want to believe in this conspiracy theory that the sponsors of banditry and kidnapping are big men, influential people. There's that story now making the rounds.
Yes.
That those behind it are not, the people you see are just like cannon fodders.
Yes. But isn't it so? Because we've had confessions from even some of the arrested, kidnappers and all of that. And some of them attest to that. And if they tell you what they get out of the ransom that is being paid, in most cases you find that they end up with peanuts. And then there's just some, big man somewhere that takes the money.
My thought initially was that, yes, the kidnappers are in grades. Of course, there are senior ones, or those who are really strong and are behind them. That was my thought. And so they send their small young people, young and agile young men to the street to do the kidnapping. But I never thought in my wildest imagination that some influential people within the society are actually behind it until the Wadume case happened. And then we saw some of the people behind Wadume himself, senior military people, personnel. And I do not mean to castigate the military. They are doing the best they can. But we saw what happened. That man, has he been tried? The problem is that there are so many laws in the country. We don't have any problem with laws. So the problem we have is enforcement of those laws. So if you catch one and you do not try that person and let the world see who the person is, let's name and shame whoever the person is, why do you think others will not follow suit? That's the problem we're having. So if it is true and there are investigations, investigations have been carried out, and we now know that there are influential people behind this kidnapping, this killing of innocent people, and the kidnap of our school children. I think the government should get serious. Try this book. Why is it that we do not try people? I mean, we take some of these corruption cases to court, bad as it is.
But I think his case is in court, isn't it? The Wadume case is still in court.
Yeah, Wadume.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
mean the man behind Wadume.
Okay.
It's his own case in court. I have not heard anything. Maybe I'm not reading wide enough. There's a military man behind it. I can't remember his name now. There's somebody behind Wadume himself. And it doesn't look like he's been tried. But even if he's been tried, why should he be secret? We don't have to do secret trial. We want to know who are these. We want to see their faces. We want to know people who do not want us to sleep and live in peace.
Talking about secret trial, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu is also in court, and we've seen how sometimes journalists are barred, from having access to the place and all of that, and some are raising questions about why are we not having this trial, in public glare, so that everyone knows what's really happening, to avoid some of the suspicion and some of the allegations that, have been leveled against the prosecutors, of Nnamdi Kanu and all of that. How important is it for us to have this, public prosecution?
I don't think what we are doing is bad. It happens everywhere. There could be secret trials. Don't forget that the IPOB leader is not just, it's being tried for secession. It's a very serious case. It's not a normal criminal case that you can try in the open court. I'm not defending the government. I'm not defending the military people. I'm not defending everybody that is involved in his trial. But I think there should be some level of secrecy. Maybe to get to a stage where when they will make it open. But I think the main concern for people is that, okay, if the IPOB leader can be tried and Igboho too can be tried, even though their cases are serious enough, no government wants to see a part of its territory being threatened. But why can't we also try all the people involved in, whether it's terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, whatever you call it, why can't we also try them openly? Why can't we try them in the first instance, whether it's in the open or it's secret, in secrecy? So it's not just about what's his name? The IPOB guys. Nnamdi Kanu alone. We need to do such. We need to do more of such trials about criminals, all the criminals that are threatening the corporate existence of Nigeria.
Well, some will say our justice system is quite slow or is ineffective.
Is it not being operated by human beings? Can't we have special courts? You can have special courts for cases like this. It doesn't take much. I see them take some useless things to the National Assembly, and before you know it, they will pass it. The other day I saw one about paternity for men. It's not a priority for us.
It's not.
Why not? I mean,
no, it's not a priority.
I'm not entitled to have it.
No, let's not discuss whether you are a feminist or not.
Right.
I can discuss that. That's a different thing. I say for us as Nigerians, it's not important, because even if you give our men paternity, they will not work. They will not help their women when the women give birth. So it's a useless law. To me, it's not. But we can, even if our justice system is slow, we can quicken it. We can have special courts. What does it take to take it to National Assembly, and the bill will be passed, and the president will assent to it, and it becomes a law, and we set up the committee, and they begin to try people.
But why is it so hard? I mean, we've had these conversations over.
Why are you asking me?
So many years. So many years before now. I mean, we've been having for a couple of years.
I don't know why governance is rocket science in Nigeria. We see these things being done. Everything, bureaucracy has finished us. But they are not even thinking about it. That's even the most annoying thing. But I think there's this committee that is in charge of the congesting prisons, which to me is a good one. We need such committees. It doesn't have to be a standing committee that will take all the money again. It can be an ad hoc thing. And every state needs it. And part of the problem we have is over-centralization of everything. Everything must be done in Abuja. And anyway, that takes us to another discussion, so it's not for today. So, it's as if the federal government sometimes is overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed. Because I don't understand. I mean, we go back to the justice system that you talked about earlier on. I don't understand why it is so difficult to set up a special court. Or special courts, not just one, many. We need them. If the justice system is slow, they will help to quicken it, to fast track things.
So do you see this as maybe a major factor contributing to why people are resorting to, self-help and jungle justice, and all of that, agitations here and there, because people do not feel that their issues are
unfortunately, how many people can resort to self-help? Only a very few. A very few. And how many of such self-helps have you seen? How many people can stop their kidnap? How many people could have stopped the train from being derailed if not that God intervened on our behalf? So when we talk about this self-help, it's only a few men in Abuja and the big cities who have guns in their homes who cannot be threatened. And those people too actually cannot be threatened.
No, but it's looking like we are heading to where people will begin to, like take these things seriously. We've had calls from several quarters, even from government officials, for people to defend themselves, for people to, look for means on how to bring themselves together and, help themselves and all of that. So is that leading us to...
I am not against self-help. As a matter of fact, there was a story I saw yesterday. There's one community in Edo State, Fuga. I don't know if you've heard it. Fuga, I think that's where they do bone setting or something like that. There's one popular hospital there. They set up a committee to defend the community. A vigilante group to defend the community. That's a small community. I don't know whether it's a local government. It's in Edo State. It's called Central or something like that. That's self-help, communal self-help, and I commend their effort. But in truth, if we allow every community to set up vigilantes, we are heading for anarchy. There's anarchy in the horizon. That's why we talk about state police, community policing, and devolution of power. There's too much power at the center. It doesn't help us. So with a community like that, of course they are working in concert with the police. But if we have a state police and county police, or what we call local government police, that small community will not need to set up its own vigilante group. This local government police would have taken care of that.
All right then, thank you. Well, we would have to end the discussion here. The review of our dailies on Daybreak. We've been speaking with Zainab Suleiman Okino, Chairman, Editorial Board of the Blueprint newspaper, discussing some of the stories that made the headlines this morning. Thank you so much for coming on the show again.
You're welcome.
We hope to have you next time.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll discuss Central Bank's introduction of the eNaira, which is about to be launched today by President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa. Stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Nice to see you, sir. You got a 10-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. He's a chill boy. Yeah. And how did he get to that stage? You allowed it to happen. You allowed it to fester. It's like a cancer.
It's a failure of the family, a failure of the society, and a failure of governance.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
To operate within the context of the law with much respect to human rights.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
This is the spot, a marking signifying the starting point of the dam.
No chobri, no sare, 40. No compensation has been given to any community member and no place has been earmarked for their relocation.
Since why they go, they never come back.
And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed. But for many years, the story has remained the same. This is the site of the proposed hydroelectric power station in Mambila. But the irony is, no construction has even commenced yet.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, they laid off 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's Daybreak reaching you from Trust Television, live from the nation's capital in Abuja. And we've been looking at the recent happenings in our polity. Now we'll be talking about the Central Bank of Nigeria's e-Naira. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari will, on Monday today, formally unveil the Nigeria Central Bank digital currency, CBDC, known as the e-Naira. The Central Bank of Nigeria had earlier announced the launch of the digital currency on October 1, but postponed the launch, citing lineup events for the country's 61st independence anniversary. A statement on Saturday by the spokesman of the bank, Osita Nwasinobi, said the launch will take place at the State House in Abuja. Now, let's take a look at the features of the e-Naira. First, It provides unified payment system that each customers can now move their money from their bank accounts to their eNaira wallet without stress. We also have the contactless payment that we have customers can make in-store payment using their eNaira wallet by scanning QR codes. Bank account management. It enables customers monitor their eNaira wallet, check balances, and look at their transaction history. You have also the peer-to-peer payment enabled. The eNaira allows users to send money to one another through their linked bank account or card. Now, here is why the central bank is venturing into this. One, it mentioned increased cross-border trade. It also talked about accelerated financial inclusion. That is, the eNaira project will improve, increase financial inclusion, cheaper and faster remittance inflows, easier targeted social interventions, improvements in monetary policy effectiveness, payment systems efficiency, and tax collection. Now, in the studio, we have a business and economic experts in the person of Steve Nwachukwu in the studio to give us perspectives on this. Steve, good morning, and it's good to have you join us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, yes, one will say that, we've been doing all of these things before now. If you're talking about, checking our balances online, remittances and all of that, you have mobile apps that, do these things with commercial banks and what have you. What's different about this central bank's eNaira thing?
Oh, well, not taking the position of the central bank or speaking for them, but I think anything that has to do with digital transactions, any innovation in that line is always good. Just like you said, what is the difference? You may not have much different from the existing digital transactions that we have, but the little differences that you may point at could be the issue of doing it at ease, doing it without people watching you, doing it without having a second authorization for your transactions to take place. Yes, you can also have do the same thing in your normal apps you have with the banks, and the transaction you do, you may not actually have the bank supervising you, but in this very eNaira, you have a seamless transaction, a transaction that is more of in the form of what do you call it again? In form of a blockchain ledger, not like what you have in the conventional transactions you have in the commercial bank. So that is a big difference from what you used to have before.
Okay. Now, when many hear eNaira, what comes to some of these people's mind isn't that like digital currency? What makes the eNaira different from the normal cryptocurrency that we know?
Okay, yes, in as much as eNaira is totally different from crypto, because it's not, when I use the word blockchain, I said it's not fully integrated, but it works in similar to that of the crypto or in the blockchain transaction, or usage of a larger system. So the difference between what you have and the regular Naira you have is that this is a digital Naira, a Naira you can use to store your values, just like you can also keep your Naira in your savings as a part of storage. But here you have it in a digital form where you can have a seamless transaction, both local and international.
All right. Well, quite a lot of issues, were raised. For instance, others are skeptical that are we prepared, to venture into, this, project, looking at the digital divide, and when the central bank talk about how it's going to increase financial inclusion, one wonders how, because we have quite a large number of people. I would say the gap of the digital divide is quite wide when we have people who are not really digitally inclined or technologically inclined to participate in this kind of banking.
Excellent, excellent. That's a challenge that the central bank or the users of this very innovation is going to face, because we have the level of internet penetration in Africa, in Nigeria is still low. The level of literacy in the digital world is still low. So this is where you will now have issues, because it's going to limit the number of people that will use this very transaction or this very system of transacting businesses. So yes, we already have people in digital world doing all sorts of digital transactions, but this is innovative in the sense that it's seamless, in the sense that it's not like the usual commercial activities or the transactions you do with your bank. Just like the CBN suggested, you can have a 1 billion naira in your bank and you decide to move half of it to the e-naira and do other transactions that you have to do with this very $500 million or you have transferred to your e-naira, and still keeping the other one in your conventional bank account. So it gives you that very freedom to have other channels of transaction or having your business conducted using the digital means. Your clients can decide not to have you being paid by your usual currency or by your usual transaction of naira, but that of the e-naira or that of the digital currency. So this is an opportunity where you said, I don't need a conventional payment system or a conventional cash payment or conventional transfer from bank to bank. You can also say, well, you can pay me with e-naira. That's the essence.
Okay. Now, many would wonder, with the, the e-naira in circulation, does this mean that we don't get to have physical currencies? But the CBN also clarified that it is not an investment platform, the version of a physical, currency that we have. What does this mean? Can we use both to have transactions, or we're all going digital now?
Well, yes, you can. It's an option now. Just like I gave instance just my last response. I said you could have 1,000 naira in your account and you decide to move 500 naira, half of it, to your e-naira. So it's a payment optional. It's a payment option for to widen the business transactions that we have. So a client can decide, I can have a transaction with you, and you said, no, I would rather prefer you pay me e-naira than paying me with a conventional naira note or paying me with any other channels of transaction. You can transfer money. So you can decide any of the options that you want for any transaction. So it widens, it creates more opportunities for people to have other options for settlements of transactions, and also storage of your words. You could store whatever you have in your e-naira. It doesn't attract any charges, but it does not also attract, that is the disadvantage, it does not also attract interest payments. You can have in your conventional bank accounts you have with your commercial banks, your deposits yielding interest for you, but in case of this e-naira, you don't have any interest paid to you.
Okay, so just to clarify, this e-naira thing and the wallet will be domiciled with the central bank, is that correct?
Yes, an app operated by central bank.
Okay. Now, how will this impact on the cost of, printing money and all of that? Because it looks like, okay, what we're expecting to have is a reduction in cash in circulation.
Of course.
Is this going to have any
that's one
positive
of the major,
impact,
yes,
on the costs of, printing and all of that?
Recirculation of naira. That's the major cost CBN will be saving by the launch of this very e-naira. The amount of transaction you regularly, just like CBN recently, about 3 or 4, 5 years ago, introduced the cashless policy. This is in the same line of the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, whereby you have little or less activities that you require you paying money using the physical cash. By the time you use the physical naira and it got raw things, it's more cost on Central Bank of Nigeria to reprint such notes or take the bad ones out of circulation. So what this e-naira and other digital method or systems that are being introduced by Central Bank, like the cashless policy, are all meant to cut down the number of money in circulation. In circulation, in the physical money in circulation. So where you have multiple channels where you can conduct your transaction, you can settle your business transaction, it reduces. I don't know when last a couple of people like me do transaction running into ₦1 million using cash. I don't know when last I did it. All are done digitally. All are done electronically.
Now, in terms of, government mopping up revenue, tax and all of that, how is this innovation going to help?
Well, the implication is that when you move your money to e-Naira, it means it has gone out of the conventional banking system. Now, if you want to buy a treasury bill, you're not going to use e-Naira to buy a treasury bill or buy a bond. So it's going to limit also some of the transaction, except government is going to also float bonds that will be bought in e-Naira. I don't know the art aspect, but because central bank is an arm of government, when I use the word that, is a department of is a sort of part of government. So whatever innovation or whatever policies introduced by central bank is assumed is government that is doing. That's why you are having the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria launching it today, because it's a government-owned policy. Now, if CBN introduces e-Naira, having a wallet, it also means that with time to come, central bank or debt management office will also float any of the bonds that you can purchase using the e-Naira. Even some of the government transaction, government will now have to settle some of their contractors using e-Naira. Once that is done, it means also that government can also float or buy or float bonds that people can purchase using their e-wallets.
Okay. Now, the CBN issued a statement saying that presently they want to convert 10%, of the currency already, the physical currency already in circulation, to e-Naira. How would that happen?
It's achievable. It's achievable. 10% of what we have in deposit can actually move there, because most of the large chunk of transactions are done electronically. So it's possible, it can work. But the question is, what is the level of acceptability of this very channel of payment?
Right.
That's what we should be focusing on. Central Bank of Nigeria coming out to emphasize and educate Nigerians on the usage, not just throwing the app open, on the usage and seamless in its practicability, usage of this very policy. How is it going to really be seamless? We know what we face in our e-channels when we use our e-channels to do our transaction in our commercial banks. We know failures, we know the hiccups, we know network failures, we know a lot. So this is the area the government and the Central Bank of Nigeria should be coming to lay more emphasis on how they have built up a system that is seamlessly, is going to work operationally, is going to be efficient and all that. Once that is done, I'm very sure that 10% target of Central Bank of Nigeria is achievable. It's quite achievable, because a chunk of business transactions are done electronically. So if it has that level of acceptability or that level of acceptance by Nigerians from the business community that this is a very solid channel of settling transactions, 10% is nothing to, it's a small target for Central Bank.
All right, we will talk about the international dimension to this conversation, how it will impact trade, for us as Nigerians. But let's take a look at this clip that shows the announcement of the e-Naira by the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, about 2 months ago, declaring that the central bank is moving in this direction. Take a look.
Digital currency is what central banks all over the world, they are providing as an alternative to the current money arrangement. What are we saying? You have some Naira in your account, and you choose to convert part of your Naira into a digital wallet by way of a digital currency. We will support that. If, for instance, you have 10 million Naira in your account, you go to your bank. So, of course, when this starts, CBN will move some of the balances of banks in CBN to those banks in digital currency. So you go to your bank, you have for 10 million Naira, you say you want to move your 10 million Naira, maybe 2 million out of your 10 into a digital currency. They will debit your account and move it to you into your wallet of 2 million naira digital currency, which you can spend across countries. Okay, so we think that this is a novel idea, and we are not the first. We know the PBOC in China has unveiled theirs, and many other central banks are advanced stages of unveiling their own digital currency, and our own digital currency, which is tagged eNaira, will certainly come into operation by the special grace of the Almighty by October, and we are working very hard for this. So what is the objective? On payment system, we believe that transactions will be cheaper and more efficient, as there will be less hubs to complete. On digital economy, the Nigerian economy, just like the rest of the world, is going digital, and cash cannot play in that space. Therefore, eNaira, which will represent the digital equivalent of cash, will be used as the fiat currency to effect transactions.
Okay, welcome back. You are still watching Daybreak on Trust Television, and we are still discussing the eNaira, and we have a guest in the studio. In the name of Mr. Steve Nwachukwu to discuss, the details about the eNaira. So now let's talk about, the international acceptance, because the central bank said the eNaira is going to ease international transaction. What does this actually mean?
I think at this point it will require CBN to rather educate us the more. This is their brainchild, and they're going to tell us how it's going to have this international dimension acceptance. We are even talking about local acceptance. So how would other countries in the world accept the eNaira as a mode of transaction? This is what we should be looking at, since CBN talking to other organizations through the Foreign Affairs Ministry, through a bilateral agreement to accept the eNaira as a mode of payment. We have huge transaction or trade transaction with China, we have with US, we have with UK. If you target these very 3-4 countries in the world to get to accept the eNaira as a mode of payment, that would be excellent. So it's going to gain from that point of the international form of transaction. So for now, because like I said, it takes a brainchild of the government, a brainchild of CBN. I know for sure they know it doesn't just ends with throwing up an app or throwing up a policy of this nature. It also takes the other aspect of it, which means you have to liaise, you have to dialogue, you have to talk to, you have to convince the relevant institution. You also have to convince some multinational and multilateral organizations that this has come to stay, that you need to, or even the captains of industry. I would rather even suggest that Central Bank of Nigeria by now or by evening should be having a dinner with captains of industry, because these are the guys that are going to make huge transactions that may require this eNaira. Once they have a buy-in, like the likes of Dangote, the likes of the multinational or multi-billionaires we have, and the rest of them having to accept this very payment platform as a mode of transaction or a mode of settling business transaction, that we really have. Then on the aspect of the international, like I mentioned, few countries that Nigerian government needs to start talking with, so that through the Chamber of Commerce we have with all these countries, that business partners abroad, and we get to accept eNaira as a mode of payment. So I think it has more to do with consultation. Once they consult wide, it's going to have a wider acceptance, both local and international.
All right. Now, another issue that we'll have to contend with is the issue of internet fraudsters, as we are venturing into these, as a country. Over time, we've seen how, some of these scammers, tend to use people's details, from banks and all of that, and access their accounts and all of that. Is this project, this eNaira, initiative, fortified enough, against these tendencies?
This is quite a risky question, in the sense that I'm not an IT expert, but with experience within the sector, have gained a little experience there. Let me come from the positive note that yes, just like you have any other apps, just like you have the conventional banks, just like you have the apps used, I don't want to mention a particular bank, any of the apps used by any of these conventional banks or commercial banks used on daily basis for our daily transactions, that you still have, they are not hackers proof, in the sense that you still have incidents of stolen, incidents of hacking, incidents of all you have within the electronic digital world. So I don't think that CBN also will come up with an app that is not will I say semi-proof, in the sense that while people will attempt to hack, while people will attempt to defraud people, while people will attempt to break into the system, they are also hackers proof, in the sense that it's also seamless, and that security aspect of it is well secure. I'm sure that Central Bank of Nigeria will be doing much better than what you have the commercial bank have. That is my confidence, that whatever CBN is coming up will be much better, much security secured than what you have with the commercial banks.
So what other challenges might arise from the pilot implementation of this currency?
Well, I foresee some failed transactions. When you have a failed transaction, the process of settling such kind of resolving it, just like you also have failed transaction when you do transaction or remit money or transfer money from one bank to another, it takes weeks, it takes quite a process. So that I expect, I don't know how much CBN is ready to attend to such issues, to attend to such cases. If they have a very good help desk to walk through these very issues, it will give that confidence. By the time you hit brickworks and you have a seamless resolution of your issues, it gives you confidence that system is working. But when it takes you days, takes you weeks, with the fear attached to it that I don't know about this system, I've not used it, so this is the area I will have to talk on CBN to actually have a very responsive help desk that will attend to Nigerians, that will attend to users if they run into hitches during their transactions.
Now, unlike the commercial banks that have branches all over the place, Central Bank is not one of those banks that you find branches, all over the place, like the commercial bank. So, in terms of resolving this kind of issues that you just raised, do you think that that's a problem for the Central Bank?
It is a problem. That's why we have to identify some of these problems. So that's why I'm sure CBN is also listening. They have to put up mechanisms to actually checkmate this very foreseen and unforeseen circumstance that Nigerians will be encountering by the time the app is launched today. So I foresee a situation that CBN will now be directing people to go to your commercial banks to resolve some of this, because the transaction will actually start from your commercial banks. That's why sometimes I also see some of the limitation that the banks may also attempt to run down this very system. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to raise an alarm here, but I foresee such, because by the time you move a chunk of transactions from your bank account, let me explain what I mean, because this is just the commercial banks, like the word implies, they are commercial bank. They are in for business. If you want to take away their problem, you want to take away their food, or you want to take away their source of income, they may also somehow frustrate the system. Just like sometimes when you
But is it a threat to the commercial bank?
Of course, it's not like it's a threat, but it's a challenge to them, because definitely it's going to reduce their volumes of transaction. That is a fact. By the time you move to this very channel, just like you also have e-channels, transaction through the e-channels running in trillions, is reducing the number of people in the bank, in the banking halls.
Right.
It means that the staff they have in the banking hall is a challenge to them.
Right.
I'm just taking this analogy, that while you have the e-channels that the banks have also floated, is the banks. It affects the workers. in the sense that they will lay off workers because they don't require much of the physical hands to do this transaction. They require more of the technology. They require more of those equipment or more of those softwares to run that very system. So you see the rising volumes of transaction through the e-channels of transactions, while in the commercial banks you are not seeing them opening new branches. In the last 2-3 years, I don't think there's any bank that has this very aggressive policy to open new branches like we used to see it 7, 10, 20 years ago. They are just spreading their branches. Now they are rather spreading the technology to reach out to those who are unbanked.
So do we say banks are going to go extinct soon?
Oh, not really, because in the sense you cannot take away the banking sector. You cannot take away the usual transaction we have in banks. Just like you said, the central bank that floated is also a banking transaction. So, but this is more like it's a government-owned transaction. It's a government-owned currency, whereby it's only can obtain from the central bank. It can only be obtained from. You can go anywhere and pick up your good, but here and store your good in your house as a medium of storage, or also use it for transactions, settle transactions. People use gold also to settle transactions, but because of the physical aspect of the gold, people don't often use it. But here, because it's an electronic, it's in digital, you can't physically have it. All you just need is some digits of codes of some softwares that gives you access to conduct your transaction. Same way you can save your money as a storage, save your wealth, save whatever you have using the e-naira. So it works in this both ways. So on the issue of, is it a threat to the existing commercial banks? Yes, it could. Seems to be a threat in the sense that I have £1 billion in my account. I do transactions and they take their COT from me. Now I've moved half of that money or 70% of that money to e-naira, where I will not pay any charges. It means that the volume of transaction I conduct with the regular banks through the payment systems, through settlement of salaries or any whatever you may engage in, it means that you have moved a substantial amount of same money, volume of money, to your e-naira, where they will not charge you a dime in each of your transactions. So it's definitely going to affect the commercial bank. So will they in any way try to frustrate this? That I don't know.
So you know, just like we saw how the POS thing is like a revolution that have created a lot of jobs for Nigerians, you know, is this also going to increase the chances of having more, you know, people in the informal sector, quote and unquote, you know, involved in this business, you know, of, you know, e-naira and all of that, taking away the jobs from the banks and now giving it to the people? Would that be correct to say?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so that you're going to have so, because of the technology involved. The technology is domiciled with CBN. The app is domiciled with CBN. But you can still have some agents that possibly will flow. Just like you mentioned, you have the POS. POS is also attached to a certain commercial bank that you obtain your POS from. So the same way, if this CBN, like I said, this is a brainchild of CBN, are they going to widen the scope to attract people that could possibly act as an agent to help for a seamless transaction or conducting of seamless transaction? That I don't know until they come up with such policies, and that would be beautiful if they do such kind of things, giving opportunity to Nigerians so that they can stand as a third party or stand as an intermediary, so that they can have access to make their living through such kind of businesses. So it's going to be beautiful if such, but for now it's going to be pair. So you don't need any individuals to, you just need to download the app. Once the app is in your mobile phone or whatever digital gadgets that you're using, you have access to, you can conduct your transaction. You don't need a third party. Okay.
Now, do you think convincing Nigerians is going to be a challenge?
I don't think it's going to be a challenge in this sense, because we're already in that world. The CBN is just rather learning from what is in existence. There are existing apps, there are existing softwares that people use to settle transactions, just like you have. There are existing ways people are settling their transaction prior before this. So we are already in it. So the only thing is that acceptance as a medium of transaction. Would you allow this? What is the security? You know, when you keep your money in the bank, you feel a bit safer. I hope, because the banks has been with you for decades, for years, for 30 years, for 50 years. So that's kind of relaxation you have when you keep your money in your bank. Will you have it? So it's a question of time when this is introduced that Nigerians will start buying into it and saying it, yes, it's secured, it's safe, I can keep my money there, I can keep my values there and do my transaction without running into issues.
Okay. Now, I've heard many ask this question. You know, early this year, the central bank placed a ban on cryptocurrency, and now they're bringing in e-naira. Some would say central bank actually made that move for e-naira to surface. Are you of that opinion as well?
Well, that's where the controversy comes in the sense that, yes, you said there won't be trading of crypto while you are introducing something that looks like crypto. Yes, e-naira is not crypto because it doesn't work in the blockchain of the cryptos. None of the e-naira app is connected to the blockchain of the crypto. So, but something that looks like e-naira, that looks like crypto. So the argument will not be for those Nigerians who believe that they can perfectly do their transaction using the cryptocurrency world. And you are now introducing the e-naira. What confidence do I have on the e-naira? So this is where the dichotomy is. Those who already play in the crypto, would they prefer to move to e-naira? Now the question is e-naira coming to solve a problem? Or is e-naira coming actually to create a new avenue of business transactions? Is e-naira coming to reduce the cost of doing transaction or your business transaction? If these 3-4 questions are well answered, then it defines or counters whatever opinion you have about the ban on cryptocurrency. Now, why I say this is that 90 to 80% or even to 95% of users of crypto are just speculators. They are not actually using the crypto to do the real business of crypto. I don't know of any of the fundamental companies or companies that run on blockchains that exist in Nigeria. But you have hundreds and thousands of Nigeria in the crypto world. The essence of crypto is also to have you having access to other means of settling your businesses or purchasing or any transaction you want to conduct outside the commercial banks. Now the central bank have introduced something that look more similar to the crypto, less competitive in the sense that you could actually move your naira you have with your commercial bank to the e-naira, and if the man that runs a hotel, you walks into a hotel, accepts e-naira, you could decide to pay with your physical cash, naira, or you pay with your e-naira in a digital form. You could decide to do your transaction in this same tool. Now compare it to the crypto world. Can you walk into any hotel where you want to rest, you want to pay, and you said, I want to pay you with crypto? This is where the challenge is. Yes, the crypto is banned in Nigeria. Crypto activities or transaction is forbidden in Nigeria. Now, e-naira provides much such fundamental transparent than what you have in the crypto. Who are the owners of crypto? Now I know that the owner of e-naira is Central Bank of Nigeria. It's legitimate. But go to ask of those who float in the cryptos. Most of them are these guys that work in casinos. Most of them are gamblers. You cannot trace them. They can come up with those apps. And one thing with the crypto world, or one thing with blockchain, is the fundamentality of you holding on to that very app that you introduce, that very platform, doing whatever it means to keep it afloat. Some of these very blockchain or apps or softwares run for months. Some runs for 2 years and they goes under. here CBN has the responsibility of making sure that the e-Naira app or e-Naira wallet is functional. So this is the difference. Those in the crypto world, you have over 6,000 or 10,000 crypto coins around the world now. Some of them don't last up to 6 months, they've gone. Some of them 1 year, some of them 2 years, they cannot maintain the app. So this is the challenge. But here, there is that level of acceptance or that confidence that you have that this is a government, this is a bank running this very app.
So before we go, if you're explaining to a layman, you know, on the streets, and if you're explaining to him what e-Naira means, can you just say it is a digital version of your physical currency?
Exactly. You defined it. That's an excellent definition.
Okay. All right.
A digital version of your physical currency, Naira, that you hold. Just like you have it in cash, you have it in bank, you also have it in aspect of it, having it in a digital form.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I think we would end the discussion here. Thank you so much for coming. We've been speaking with Steve Nwachukwu, business and economic expert, talking about the central bank's e-Naira launch, which is scheduled to happen today by President Muhammadu Buhari. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. We hope to have you again.
Next time.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Yes. All right, let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll round up the show. Please stay with us.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction. Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004. From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, they laid off 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Nice to see you, sir. You got a 10-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. He's a shill boy. Yeah. And how did he get to that stage? You allowed it to happen. You allowed it to fester. It's like a cancer.
It's a failure of the family, a failure of the society, and a failure of governance.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
To operate within the context of the law with much respect to human rights.
Nice to see you, sir. You got a 10-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. He's a shill boy. Yeah. And how did he get to that stage? You allowed it to happen. You allowed it to fester. It's like a cancer.
It's a failure of the family, a failure of the society, and a failure of governance.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
To operate within the context of the law with much respect to human rights.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching the Daybreak on Trust Television. I would say you are late if you are just joining, but that's not to say that all hope is lost. You can always catch up on our social media handle. Go to our YouTube. You can catch up all the discussion. You can get the analysis and perspectives on the recent happenings. Today we had the discussion about the Central Bank of Nigeria's e-Naira launch, which is to happen today at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Business and economic expert Stephen Nwachukwu gave his thoughts, and we also had the newspaper review by Zainab Suleiman Okijo, beg your pardon. And it was very, very insightful, really, I must say, to have her around on the show. But at this point, we would have to say bye to you. We've come to the end of the show. We hope to have you tomorrow. Join us on the show again.
I'm Zainab Bala. Thank you so much for watching.
And I am Ayubela. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.